Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Monday, Yom Sheni. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house on a Monday? Stephen in New Hampshire, Yehuda in South Carolina, Bella in Florida, Shendor in the Bronx, Joe in the Inland Empire, Melissa in Great Neck, Sharon in New Jersey, Lorraine in Texas, Guy in Ohio, Renee in Indiana, over there on the YouTube side, Frank in San Pedro, Aoife in Florida, Ellen in Southern California, Spencer in Connecticut, Mickey in New Jersey, Alan in New York City. Very interesting, relevant, controversial matters we'll be discussing today. We're still talking about death penalty offenses, but we have moved past the Ben Sorer Umore, the stubborn and rebellious son. We're on page 72A. Our daf is 72. We're near the top of 72A with Mishna number 8 here in chapter 8 of Sanhedrin, the 24th volume of the Talmud. The Mishnah reads, a burglar who is found breaking into a house may be killed by the owner of the house with impunity. Impunity, this is a note in the Koren, the Steinsaltz elucidation here. The Gemara doesn't say with impunity, it just says he may, right? Because the Torah says he may be killed. What does with impunity mean? In other words, this is going to be distinguished from other situations that we're about to discuss. Okay, but the bottom line here, this is why I titled today's show, The Castle Doctrine. So let us first say that according to halacha, to Torah, Jewish law, dina de malchusa dina, Jews who live in any nation are subject to the laws of that nation unless those laws directly contradict Torah law. So while we're going to say that if a burglar is coming into your house under certain conditions, there's going to be an assumption that he would kill you if you confronted him, and therefore you're permitted to kill him because he broke into your house. So that's not the law in the United States, depending on what state you're in. California, for example, has a castle doctrine that if someone breaks into your house, you can kill him for breaking into your house only if it is clear under the circumstances when you drew your weapon that he presented a life-threatening situation. Just the fact that he's in your house under California law is not enough to have this claim that I felt that my life was threatened. Right? It'd have to be a reasonable person in that moment would assume that your life is in danger, then you can kill him. Other states, I believe, have a stronger castle doctrine where just the fact that he broke into your house is enough and you can kill him. And the Torah is basically like that, but not entirely, as we shall see. There are exceptions. Okay. So a burglar who is found breaking into a house may be killed by the owner. That's Exodus 22:1. And this one, the reason we're mentioning this law now is because when we're talking about the Ben Sorer Umore yesterday, the stubborn rebellious son, right, who was not killed because of the sins he's already committed, right? The stubborn and rebellious son, and we saw that there never was such a case and never will be, but the concept was that this child, he's not a minor anymore, but this very young man, doesn't apply to girls, because he has already become a glutton and a drunkard and is associated with all kinds of wickedness, his end will be much greater wickedness. He'll probably become violent and kill people and commit all kinds of crimes. And to save the community and himself from that future, you're permitted to sentence him to execution. Similarly, but not the same, we're talking now about this burglar who comes into your house. Right now, under Torah law, he hasn't threatened your life. He's not pointing a gun at you. There is an assumption that because he knows that the owner of the house will do whatever he can to defend his property, this guy knows that when he's breaking into your house, he might be killed for it. Therefore, he's prepared to kill. The fact that he's breaking in is strong evidence that he is prepared to kill you and presents a life-threatening force, and that is why you're allowed to kill him first. He has the status of a pursuer, somebody who is trying to kill you. He has that legal status, even though he's not literally trying to kill you. All he's done so far is break into your house. Therefore, says the Mishnah, he too is sentenced on account of his ultimate end, as it is presumed that if the owner of the house would resist the burglar would kill the owner of the house. If the burglar was breaking into a house, and in the course of doing so, he broke a barrel. Okay, so in other words, he damaged property as he was breaking into your house. Now we're going to bifurcate these outcomes. There's two possibilities. Either it's a situation where the homeowner is permitted to kill the burglar, and basically if you are permitted to kill the burglar, then if he breaks property coming into your house, then even if you don't kill him, but if you're permitted to kill him, he's exempt from paying for the damage that he caused, because he's exempt because he basically was willing to risk his life in order to come in, and then he's not going to be punished. If you had killed him, so the heavier punishment would accrue, death, and therefore he's not going to be liable for repairing the property that he damaged on his way in. On the other hand, if it's a situation where the homeowner is not permitted to kill the burglar who is breaking in, then if he damages property on the way into your house, he is liable to reimburse you for the property that he broke. A little bit counterintuitive, should become clearer as we go on. So if the burglar was breaking into a house, and in the course of doing so, he broke a barrel, if there is blood guilt for killing him, meaning you're not permitted to kill him, then, i.e. the homeowner would be liable for killing him, right, is not permitted to kill him, then the burglar is liable to pay for the value of the barrel. An example of this, where the homeowner is not permitted to kill the burglar, an example of this is if a father broke into his son's house. What's the different about that? When a father breaks into his son's house, he might be some kind of dangerous desperado drug addict who's so immoral that he's willing to break into his son's house to steal from his son. But it's still the father. And the presumption is that a father would not kill his son. Therefore, the son, who's the owner of the house, is not permitted to kill the father, because there's strong reason to believe that there is no life-threatening situation here. The father wouldn't kill his son. It is presumed that even if the son resists his father would never kill him, and therefore the son may not kill his father. And if he does kill his father, then he would have blood guilt, right? He was not permitted to kill his father, so if he did, this would constitute a crime. In that situation, where he's not permitted to kill the father, if the father damages property while he's breaking into the house, he would be liable to repay for that property, to reimburse for that property. Now, if there is no blood guilt for killing him, that means it's permitted to kill the burglar, right? If there is no blood guilt for killing him, i.e. the homeowner would be exempt from punishment for killing him, i.e. it is permitted to kill him, then the burglar is exempt from paying for the barrel. Since he committed a crime where he already forfeit his life, in the sense that it would be permitted to kill him when he came in, that's the heavier punishment. He doesn't also have to pay for property damage. Even if he wasn't killed coming in, he remains exempt for the property damage. Okay, that's the Mishnah. There's a lot of if and but. That's a little tough to follow, so I'm going to try to keep it as clear as possible. We definitely have to wind up our logic muscle here and keep it all straight. Okay, the Gemara. Rava says, what is the reason for this law concerning a burglar who breaks into a house? And he explains, there is a presumption that a person does not restrain himself when faced with losing his money, and therefore this burglar must have said to himself, if I go in and the owner sees me, he will rise against me and not allow me to steal from him. And if he rises against me, I will kill him. That must be his presumption since he's breaking into the house. He's not suicidal. He's trying to steal. So he's willing to steal from a guy who would be willing to kill him if he gets caught. Therefore, we're talking about a desperate type of criminal who we can assume would kill the homeowner. And that's why he acquires the legal status of a rodef, a pursuer. And that means that the homeowner can kill him for breaking in, even though at that moment the burglar isn't, holding a sword or a gun to the head of the homeowner. And how do we know this? The Torah stated a principle. If someone comes to kill you, rise and kill him first. We've seen this before. This is the basic law of self-defense. If someone is coming to kill you, rise and kill him first. Not only is it permitted, you should do it, right? You should defend yourself. Your life is a gift to you from God. If someone is coming to take it, you should defend it. So if it's clear to you that somebody is coming to kill you, you should rise and kill him first. Rav says, if a burglar broke into a house and took certain vessels, and he then left, and he was caught only afterward. Okay, so we said that in a regular burglar situation, he is basically forfeiting his life by coming in because he knows that you're permitted to kill him and that you will kill him if you catch him coming in. Therefore, if he breaks things on the way in, he doesn't have to pay for that, right? Because the heavier, when there's two punishments that it could apply to a person, like, death penalty and paying monetary damages, we only apply the death penalty. That's true even if the death penalty isn't actually applied. You might have thought, well, okay, he's liable to the death penalty and property damage, but we didn't apply the death penalty, so at least make him pay. No, right? Once he's liable to the death penalty and monetary damages, he's exempt from the monetary damages, even if the death penalty, or in this case, the homeowner didn't actually kill him. But that's as he's breaking in. What about stuff that he steals? Rav says, if a burglar broke into a house and took certain vessels, and he then left, and he was caught only afterward, he is exempt from the obligation to pay restitution for the vessels. What is the reason? He acquired those vessels with his blood. When he broke into the house, he risked his life, as the owner could have killed him. This grave risk that he took exempts him from any other more lenient punishments that could otherwise have been imposed upon him, including the obligation to pay restitution for the theft. Rav says this. Rava says, Rav's statement is reasonable in a case where he broke the vessels in the course of robbing, as an outcome, as an effect of breaking into the house. He broke some stuff. He broke glass. He stepped on a table. He broke that. Okay, he broke stuff in the house during his robbery, and the fact that he could have been killed for it is going to make him exempt from that. But that's only because those things which he broke no longer exist. And the issue is only whether he has to pay for them. But if he took the vessels and they still exist, then Rav's ruling does not apply. Rava says, okay, he doesn't have to pay for what he broke in the course of the robbery, but what he stole? No, he can't keep that. He has to give that back to you. The Gemara comments, but by God, Rav states his ruling even with regard to a case where the burglar took the vessels and they are still extant. Right? Rav is saying, well, okay, Rav is saying he's exempt from paying for stuff that he broke, but surely Rav doesn't hold that he can keep what he stole. And now the Gemara is saying, no, Rav even says that. He acquired that which he stole because he was willing to risk his life for it. That is to say, Rav himself does not distinguish between the two cases, what he broke and what he stole. As in the case where there is blood guilt for killing him, so that's where it is not permitted to kill him, right? If a father broke into his son's house, okay, now you're not permitted to kill him. If you're not permitted to kill him, then he didn't acquire neither what he broke nor what he stole with his blood, so he definitely has to pay for anything he broke when he came in. For example, where a father came to steal from his son. So if an accident occurred to the vessels, the burglar is liable to pay for them. Apparently, the vessels are established in the burglar's possession, and he must pay for any damage that occurs to them, as if he's a borrower. Here also, then, where there is no blood guilt, so you're permitted to kill him, the vessels are established as being in the burglar's possession, totally in his possession, not as a borrower, and they are his. Roundabout way to get there. So now Rava explains, but this is not so. No. You are misunderstanding. This is not what Rav holds. The Gemara is confused, says Rava. This is not so. There is no proof from that case that can be applied to this one. One can claim that when the merciful one established the vessels in the burglar's possession, that was only concerning accidents. So he should be liable to pay for any damage that occurs to them. This would be in the case where you're not permitted to kill him, like the father breaks into the son's house. Possession. But as for ownership, they remain in the possession of their owner, just as it is in the case of a borrower. Even though a borrower is liable to pay for all the accidental damage caused to the item he borrowed, nevertheless, the borrowed item does not become his property. Just the fact that he has to, pay for it if he breaks it doesn't make it his. It's still a borrowed item and he has to return it. And likewise, maybe he's exempt from paying for what he broke in the case where you are permitted to kill the burglar. But what he stole, he still has to give it back. He didn't acquire it permanently. He may not have to pay for it if he broke it, but he can't keep it. The Gemara raises an objection against Rav. We learned in the Mishna that if the burglar was breaking into a house, and in the course of doing so, he broke a barrel, so if there is blood guilt for killing him, meaning you're not permitted to kill him, like a father breaking into his son's house, then the burglar is liable to pay the value of the barrel. If there is no blood guilt for killing him, meaning it's permitted to kill him, right? Just third-party burglar came into your house. You can assume he's dangerous, and you're permitted to kill him. In that situation, he is exempt from paying for the barrel, what he broke on the way in. Now, a precise reading of the Mishnah indicates that the reason he is exempt is that he broke the barrel. So where there is no blood guilt for killing him, it's permitted to kill him, he is exempt from paying for it. But there's a difference between breaking the barrel and taking the barrel. But if he took the barrel, he would not be exempt. Rather, he would be liable. And this is counter to the ruling of Rav. So the Gemara explains the same is true, i.e. that the burglar would be exempt, even if he took the barrel. Right? This is what Rav would say. And that which was taught in the Mishnah, he broke the barrel. This serves to teach us that when there is blood guilt for killing him, not permitted to kill him, then even though he broke the barrel and it is no longer extant, he is also liable to pay for it. That's not what the Mishnah said. So the Gemara objects. Isn't it obvious that he is liable? The burglar is like any other person who causes damage and is liable to pay for it. Why wouldn't he have to pay for it? He broke your property on the way into your house. And the Gemara answers, this Mishnah teaches us that he is liable even if he broke the barrel unintentionally. So the Gemara objects again. Wait, what is the Mishnah teaching us with this ruling? Does it teach that the legal status of a person is always that of one forewarned? Like an ox, right? If you have an ox that damages somebody else's property, so if it had never been a damaging ox before, you only have to pay half the value of the property. But if it was known to be a dangerous ox, then you have to pay the full value of the property. That's being forewarned. That's for oxen. Humans are always considered forewarned. If you break stuff that belongs to someone else, you have to pay for it. Does it teach the legal status of a person is always that of one forewarned and therefore he is liable even for unintentional damage? But we already learned this in a Baraisa. The legal status of a person is always that of one forewarned. Whether the damage was done unintentionally or intentionally, whether it was by unavoidable accident or whether it was done willingly. And the Gemara comments, indeed, this presents a difficulty for Rav. Right? Rav is saying that if the guy breaks in and it's permitted to kill him, he's not liable for what he broke as he comes into your house because of this issue of the smaller penalty is vacated in light of the bigger penalty being that you're permitted to kill him. So therefore, he's exempt from paying for your property. But we're holding up against that this principle that when you break somebody else's stuff, you owe him, whether you did it intentionally or unintentionally. So, okay, he might have forfeited his life, but he broke your stuff on the way in. Rav Beve bar Abaye raises an objection to the ruling of Rava from a Baraisa. One who steals a purse on Shabbos and takes it out into a public domain is liable to pay for what he stole, even though he also desecrated Shabbos, which is a transgression for which one is executed by stoning. Okay, so two penalties could apply. If you steal my wallet on Shabbos, right, I don't touch my wallet on Shabbos. It's muktzah. We don't touch money on Shabbos because there's no valid use of money on Shabbos, right? So we set it aside. We don't buy and spend. There's things we don't touch on Shabbos because they're related to the labors of the weekdays. Those things are prohibited on Shabbos. Okay. So if you steal my wallet on Shabbos, so you've done two things. One is you stole from me. You took my wallet. You're going to have to reimburse me. And number two, you desecrated Shabbos, which if you were warned by witnesses and you did it right after the warning and they saw you do it and they testified, you could be liable to the death penalty for desecrating Shabbos. And we've got this principle that we've been learning. If simultaneously you do a death penalty offense and another crime which has a lower level penalty than the death penalty, everything is lower level than that, so then the lower level penalty gets vacated because when you're subject to two penalties for the same action, we only impose the more severe penalty. So here we go. One who steals a purse on Shabbos and takes it out into a public domain is liable to pay for what he stole, even though he also desecrated Shabbos, which is a transgression for which one is executed by stoning. Ordinarily, one who is liable to receive two punishments for the same offense is administered only the more severe punishment and exempt from the other one. Here, however, he is liable to pay for the purse and is executed, because he was already liable to pay for the theft as soon as he lifted the purse. And this took place before he came to violate the prohibition of performing prohibited labor on Shabbos by carrying the purse into the public domain. Right? Simply lifting the purse without stealing it, if I lift my own wallet on Shabbos, so then I violated a rabbinic prohibition of muktzah. I shouldn't have touched it. Though I can move it if I need its place it's sitting on the dining table. We're going to eat there, so I can move it away. But this is different when we're talking about stealing it. Right? Somebody who's stealing the wallet, as soon as he lifts it, so then he acquired it. He was kona it. He acquired it through an act of lifting. At that point, he's already committed theft. The penalty for that is he has to make restitution. When he then walks out of my house from the private domain to the public domain, that's when he carried something from a private domain to a public domain, and that's when he violated Shabbos and could be liable to the death penalty for that. But those things did not happen simultaneously. First he stole, and then later he desecrated Shabbos. So now they're going to change the condition so that the two things do happen simultaneously. The Baraisa continues, if he did not lift the purse, but rather he was dragging it on the ground and exiting the private domain, by dragging it on the ground, he didn't do an act of theft, right? This dragging on the ground, he didn't acquire the wallet. Technical legal definition of acquisition didn't happen because he was dragging it. So when did he acquire it as a thief? When it left my property, right? When he took it out of my property, he both desecrated Shabbos and stole my wallet with the same simultaneous act when he dragged that wallet across the threshold of my door. Then what? So if he did not lift the purse, but he was dragging it on the ground and exiting the private domain, then he's exempt from paying for what he stole. As in this case, since he did not lift the purse, he would become liable to pay for the stolen item only when he drags it out of the owner's property into the public domain. Accordingly, the prohibition of theft and the prohibition of performing a prohibited labor on Shabbos, which is punishable with death by stoning, were violated simultaneously. And one who is liable to receive the death penalty is exempt from monetary liability that he incurred with the self-same act. This poses a difficulty to Rava, who ruled that if the stolen item is still in existence, the burglar must return it. Whereas this baraisa indicates that if one commits a transgression for which he is liable to receive the death penalty, and here we're calling it a death penalty, that when he broke into my house, I have the right to kill him as the owner of the house, as long as it's not my father. Since I have a right to kill him, it's as if technically he has incurred the death penalty. Therefore, if he stole something under the same situation, he won't have to make restitution for it, certainly not for breaking, because when he came in and broke something as he came in, so the act of breaking my property, damaging my property, and incurring the death penalty happened simultaneously. So he definitely doesn't have to pay for my property. And that's what the Mishna says. Well, what about if in this same act of breaking in and stealing, he got away with my stuff? We consider all the same act, right? Simultaneous, that he incurred the death penalty and stole. So then why should he have to return my property? He should be exempt from returning my property. That's the challenge that the Gemara is now saying to the position of Rava. So now the Gemara answers its challenge like this. And the halacha is that the baraisa must be understood as referring to a case where the burglar threw the purse into a river. So he took the purse, but the purse no longer exists. He didn't damage it, he lost it. That's why he doesn't have to reimburse me, because it doesn't exist anymore. He threw it in a river, no one can recover it from there. Since the purse no longer exists, he is exempt from having to pay for it, even though he caused the damage intentionally. But if the purse still exists, if it's possible to return it, then we hold like Rava and say he has to return it. Even though he wouldn't be liable to pay for what he broke when he came into the house as a burglar, he would be liable to return what he stole if it is possible to return it. Apropos, a burglar who breaks into a house. The sages taught in a baraisa, if a burglar is found, now this is the line from Exodus chapter 22, verses 1 and 2. If a burglar is found breaking in and is smitten, right, he's killed by the homeowner, and he dies, so there shall not be bloodshed on his account. There shall not be bloodshed on his account means there shall not be blood guilt on his account, means the owner was permitted to kill him. But verse 2, if the sun is risen upon him, there shall be blood shed on his account, right? Meaning there is blood guilt of the homeowner on his account. So this sounds like a situation where the owner is not permitted to kill him, right? So what is this saying? Does it mean that, okay, if he breaks in at night, I can assume he's coming to kill me, and therefore I am permitted to kill him, but if he breaks into my house during the day, then it's not, then I cannot assume, I'm not permitted to assume that he's coming to kill me, and therefore I am not permitted to kill him in self-defense? Is that what this is saying? Is that what the Torah is saying? So now the Gemara is going to explain this, or the Baraisa is going to explain this. So a question may be raised. But did the sun rise only upon him? The sun rose upon the whole world. Why did the Torah use the language, if the sun rose upon him? It could have said, but if the sun is in the sky, or if it is daytime, then there is blood guilt on his account. You're not allowed to kill him. But it said, if the sun has risen on him, what does that mean? If the matter, okay, so a question may be raised, but did the sun rise only upon him? Rather, these words must be understood in a metaphoric sense, not a poetic metaphoric sense. But in other words, we're going to derive a legal principle from this. If the matter is as clear to you as the sun that the burglar is not coming to kill you, if the matter is as clear to you as the sun that the burglar is not coming to you in peace, right? So if it is obvious that he presents a danger to you, that he would kill you if he could, but rather he has the intention to kill you, then arise and kill him first. Now this sounds more like the California castle doctrine, right? It has to be clear as the sun that this man presents a danger to you. This burglar coming to your house is dangerous. Then you're permitted to kill him. But if you are not sure about his intentions, do not kill him. That's the first baraisa. It is taught in another baraisa. The verse states, if the sun is risen upon him, there shall be blood shed on his account, meaning not permitted. So a question may be raised. But did the sun rise only upon him? Rather, these words must be understood as follows. If the matter is as clear to you as the sun that the burglar is coming to you in peace, do not kill him. But if you are not sure about his intentions, rise and kill him first. So you see these two baraisas definitely contradict each other. The first one says, if it is clear as the sun that he's coming to kill you, that he presents a mortal danger to you, then you are permitted to kill him first. But if it's not clear as day that he's dangerous, then you can't kill him. The second baraisa says, if it's clear to you as day, if it's clear as day, clear as the sun, that he does not present a threat, okay, then you're not permitted to kill him. But if you're unsure, you can kill him, right? In the first case, if you're unsure, you're not permitted to kill him. In the second case, if you're unsure, you are permitted to kill him. And that's what the Gemara now looks at. So the Gemara notes the difficulty. The law in the undetermined case, as stated in the first baraisa, contradicts the law in the undetermined case stated in the second baraisa. The first baraisa indicates that if the homeowner is unsure about the burglar's intentions, he is prohibited from killing him. Whereas the second baraisa indicates in such a case, he is permitted to kill the burglar. So which is it? And so the Gemara says, this is not difficult. La kasha. Now we're on page 72b. Here, where the baraisa teaches that if one is unsure about the burglar's intentions, it is prohibited for him to kill him. This is referring to a father who comes to rob his son. A father has great compassion for his son, and therefore it may be presumed that he will not kill his son if he resists. Accordingly, the son is prohibited from killing his father unless he knows for certain that his father has the intention of killing him. Was it Marvin Gaye, right? The famous singer, he was killed by his father. but so rare, right? How often does a father kill his son? So if it's father coming in to the son's house, the assumption is the father's not going to kill him, and therefore the son is not permitted to kill him. But if the son has reason to believe, strong certainty that the father's trying to kill him, like the father's pointing a gun at his face, okay, so then the son can kill him first. But there, the second Baraisa, where it teaches that if one is now there, where the Baraisa teaches that if one is unsure about the burglar's intentions, it is permitted for him to kill him. This, you might have thought this is referring to, well, when a stranger comes in, okay, he's coming into my house. I have no reason to assume he has compassion for me the way a father would for his son, so it's permitted to kill him. But it actually goes to a more extreme case. This is referring to a son who comes to rob his father. Since a son has less compassion for his father, it may be presumed that he would be ready to kill his father if the father resists. Therefore, the father is permitted to kill his son unless he knows for certain that the son would never kill him. I suppose the Menendez brothers come to mind, who killed their parents. Rav says, with regard to anyone who breaks into my house, I would kill him. Right? So he's talking about anyone besides his father. With regard to anyone who breaks into my house, I would kill him, as I would presume that he is ready to kill me, except for Rav Chanina bar Shaila, with whom I would not kill. And so the Gemara asks, what is the reason that Rav excludes Rabbi Chanina bar Shaila? If we say that Rav trusts him because he is a righteous person, well, this is difficult, as the case we're talking about is one where he broke into his house. Does a righteous person break into your house? Which indicates that he is not a righteous person. So rather, it is because he would say, I am certain that if Rav Chanina bar Shaila broke into my house, even though he had fallen so low from his righteousness that he's now stealing from me, still, I am certain he would have mercy upon me, just like a father would have mercy on his son and would never kill me, and therefore I would not kill him first. New subject. The sages taught in a Baraisa, if the son is risen upon him, there shall be blood shed on his account. Now, this seems to be saying if the sun rose on him, right? Meaning that for whatever reason, you're not permitted to kill him. There shall be guilt on his account if you kill him, if the homeowner kills him. So this would seem to follow the Baraisa, which says now you have certainty that he's not coming to kill you, and that's why you're not permitted to kill him, right? If the sun is risen upon him, there shall be bloodshed on his account, both during the week and on Shabbos. This Baraisa says that you're not permitted to kill him both during the week and on Shabbos. If a burglar is found breaking in, there shall not be bloodshed in his account, meaning it is permitted to kill him both during the week and on Shabbos. So now the Gemara clarifies this Baraisa. Okay, granted that with regard to there shall not be bloodshed on his account, so that means it is permitted to kill him. So it was necessary to say that it applies both during the week and on Shabbos, as it might enter your mind to say that this is just as it is in the case of those who are executed by the court, right? And when there's a death penalty case, the death penalty is not, enforced on Shabbos. Somebody's found guilty of a death penalty offense, and he's going to be executed by the court. We don't do the execution on Shabbos. And since we're likening the right of a homeowner to kill the burglar to a death penalty, so you might have thought that, well, you can kill him if he breaks into your house during the 6 days of the week, but if he breaks in on Shabbos, you're not permitted to kill him. You might have thought that. Therefore, the Baraisa is telling us, no, it's a self-defense thing, right? You're saving yourself, pikuach nefesh, to save your life and the lives of the people in your house. You can kill him during the week, and you can kill him on Shabbos. That makes sense. As it might enter your mind to say that this is just as in the case of those who are executed by the court, who are not executed on Shabbos. Therefore, the Baraisa teaches us that the burglar may be slain in self-defense even on Shabbos. But the other clause of the Baraisa, with regard to there shall be blood shed on his account. In other words, there will be blood guilt on his account, meaning you're not permitted to kill him. So now this statement that it applies both during the week and on Shabbos is puzzling. Now, if on a weekday it is not permitted to kill him, is it necessary to say that he may not be slain on Shabbos? Is that obvious? Why do we need to say also on Shabbos? So Rav Sheshes says this ruling is necessary, but only to teach that if a building collapsed on a burglar on Shabbos, one is obligated to clear the pile of stones from on top of him and perform any action necessary to rescue him, even if it involves the desecration of Shabbos. Meaning, one does not say that while he is not permitted to actively kill him, he is also not obligated to save him. You do have to save him. And this is also very much in the real world. That if, I've told you many times, I'm in a volunteer security organization, I carry a gun when I'm in synagogue. And during the week and on Shabbos. Right? Why? Because if somebody comes to kill us, some, evil, Jew-hating villain comes to kill us, please God, I should see him coming and I'll be able to defend our community and kill him first. Perfect example, someone comes to kill you, you rise up and kill him first. Having shot him, and we took his gun away, and he's lying there in a pool of blood, clearly no longer a threat to us, do we have a responsibility to render first aid and try to save his life? Yeah. We will try to save his life at that point. Overcoming our revulsion at this person who came to kill us, we do have an obligation to save his life for a number of reasons under California law and apparently under Torah law. He came, burgled your house, and that presents a life-threatening situation, and you're allowed to kill him, as we've been reading. But if the house collapsed on him, then you do have to now try to save his life, because every life is precious. He no longer constitutes a threat to you. You have to try to save his life. And you even have to try to save his life if it means desecrating Shabbos. Fascinating, right? New subject. Concerning the verse that states, if a burglar is found breaking in and is smitten and dies, there shall not be bloodshed on his account, right? Permitted to kill the one who's breaking into your house because he's a life-threatening force. About this, the sages taught in a Baraisa. The phrase, and is smitten. This means by any person who strikes him, not just the owner of the house. And the phrase, and dies. This is by any means of death by which you can put him to death. You're not limited to some particular weapon to defend your house. You can kill him however you need to kill him. Now the Gemara clarifies this Baraisa. So granted, with regard to the words, and is smitten, it was necessary to say that he may be struck by any person, as it might enter your mind to say that it is only the owner of the house whom the burglar is certain will resist him, because there is a presumption that a person does not restrain himself when faced with losing his money, and therefore it is only the homeowner's life that is in danger from the burglar. But as for another person, the burglar is not sure that he will try to stop him, and therefore the other person may not kill him, since the burglar did not come with the intention of killing him. You might have thought that. Therefore, the Baraisa teaches us that this burglar is considered a pursuer, a rodef, and he is subject to the same law as anyone who pursues another in order to kill him, namely, that anyone may kill the pursuer in order to rescue the one being pursued. If I see one guy chasing another guy, trying to kill him with a knife, I can be pretty sure that the one running after the other one with a knife, that's not a cop, fulfilling his legal duty. This is a wannabe murderer trying to kill somebody, and I can, step in and kill the guy with the knife. I probably will think twice, about whether I want to get involved. But for sure, if I know the victim, who's running away, and I can tell that, he's clearly in fear of his life, then God willing, I'll be courageous enough to step in and kill the pursuer. In the real world, is his family then going to sue you and try to take all your property and your house, etc.? Something to think about. But if we're just talking about, morality and law in an ideal world, bottom line, yes, anyone can step in and kill the pursuer who's trying to commit murder. Okay? Not just the owner of the house can therefore kill the burglar, but anyone can kill the burglar who's coming in. Okay, that's about, is smitten, that anyone can do it. But that which the Baraisa teaches, that the words "and dies," teach that he may be slain by any means of death by which you can put him to death. Why do I need to teach this? In other words, why do I need to teach this in the context of the burglar breaking into a house? We've already learned this law somewhere else. The Gemara clarifies the difficulty. This can already be derived from the law governing a murderer. As it is taught in a Baraisa, the verse states with regard to a murderer, "He that smote him shall be put to death, for he is a murderer." Numbers 35:21. I have derived only that the murderer is put to death with the mode of execution stated concerning him in the Torah. Namely, the death penalty for a murderer is decapitation. That's the way you kill a murderer. From where do I derive, and when a court executes him, it's done by decapitation with a sword. From where do I derive that if you cannot put him to death with the mode of execution written concerning him, for example, if he is escaping from the executioner's platform, then you can put him to death with any mode of execution with which you can put him to death, right? He was tried by a court. They found him guilty. They're walking him out to the place where he's going to be decapitated by the swordsman, and he runs. So then if there's a guard who's an archer, and shoots him with an arrow and kills him, that's permitted. How do we know? From this law, that he is put to death in that passive voice, right? He shall be put to death, which would include, if you can't decapitate him the proper way, it's still permitted to do it this other way. If he's escaping, then you can put him to death with any mode of execution with which you can put him to death. How do we know this? The verse states, "He that smote him shall be put to death." And the verb is one of these doubled verbs. Mos, you must. Right? Mos, he shall be executed. You must, he shall be executed. In other words, he shall surely be executed. Right? He shall surely be killed. One of these doublings for emphasis, as the Torah is wont to do in so many places. And we've learned that this opens, it invites interpretation by the sages, and it teaches that if you can't execute him the way that the Torah dictates, but you have to execute him because he's escaping, then it's valid to do it this other way. The doubled verb teaching that he is put to death in any case by any mode of execution. Why not derive the law of a burglar from this law of the murderer? Now that we know that it's permitted to kill him when he's coming in, you kill him by any means necessary. Don't we learn that from the case of the murderer? And the Gemara rejects this reasoning. There, in the case of the murderer, it's different. As that verse explicitly states, mois yumas, right? Which serves to include all modes of execution. It doesn't say that about the burglar. So the Gemara asks, but why not learn it from a principle that can be applied to all people who may be put to death? If it's permissible to put them to death, then you can put them to death by any means necessary. But the Gemara rejects this reasoning. This case does not serve as a source for a principle because the laws of a murderer and of a blood redeemer, who's the blood redeemer? The Goel Hadam. This is in the case of a negligent homicide, the manslaughterer, and the closest relative is now permitted to kill the manslaughterer until the manslaughterer reaches the city of refuge, the Ir Miklat. Why is that relevant here? A relative of one who was killed and is allowed to kill his relative's killer. We see this in Tractate Makos, page 11b. Now, the law of the murderer and the law of the blood redeemer are two verses that come as one. and two verses that come as one do not teach a principle. In other words, if a law is stated with regard to two specific cases in the Torah, the law is understood to apply only to those cases. Had the law applied to all other relevant cases as well, it would not have been necessary for the Torah to teach it twice. Therefore, the Baraisa had to teach us that this law also applies to a burglar who breaks into a person's house. In other words, because the Torah states it twice. You shall surely kill him, right? Meaning, by any means necessary. This applies to the execution of a murderer and to the killing by the blood redeemer of the manslaughter. Since that same law comes in two places, it means it only applies in those two places. We can't assume it goes anywhere else. We are going to extend that same law to the burglar, but we had to derive it through another means, not just from the case of the murderer. Now, the sages taught in a Baraisa from the words, if a burglar is found breaking in at Exodus 22:1, I have derived only that this law applies to a burglar who came breaking in through a wall. But from where do I derive that the same law applies if he was found on his roof, in his yard, or in the enclosed area behind his house? Therefore, the verse states, if a burglar is found, which teaches that the law applies in any of these cases. Now, if that is so, what is the meaning when the verse states breaking in? Because the Torah speaks of a common case, and most thieves are found breaking into the main house through a wall, or I guess through a door. It is taught in another Baraisa from the words, if a burglar is found breaking in, I have derived only that this law applies to a burglar who came in breaking in through a wall. Where do I derive the same law applies if he was found on his roof, in his yard, or in the enclosed area behind his house? Sounds like the same situation, but it's a different Baraisa. Therefore, the verse states, if a burglar is found, which teaches that the law applies in any case. If that is so, what is the meaning when the verse states breaking in? This teaches that his breaking in is his forewarning. If a burglar is found breaking into a house, the owner need not formally forewarn him before killing him. If he is found elsewhere, such a forewarning is necessary. Right? You don't have to warn him, hey, you broke into my house, I'm going to kill you. Now that he's in, you can kill him. Rav Huna says, if a minor was pursuing another person in order to kill him, the pursued party may be saved with the pursuer's life. That is to say, one is permitted to save the pursued party by killing the minor who is pursuing him, and one does not say that the minor lacks halachic competence and therefore he is not subject to punishment. Right? Normally, a minor cannot be punished for a crime because he's not an adult under the law. But we're saying that where you kill a burglar who's coming into your house because he presents a mortal threat to you, or you can kill a pursuer, somebody who's running after somebody else with a knife trying to kill him, you can kill the pursuer. You are essentially acting like a court executing this one because he presents a mortal threat. So you might have thought, well, minors can't be executed for their crimes. So if a minor is the pursuer trying to kill someone, maybe you're not allowed to kill the minor. I mean, are you really going to ask for his ID? If you could stop him and ask for his ID, okay, then he's not a mortal threat anymore. But if you see someone running after someone else trying to kill him, and it's clearly you're trying to save the pursuee's life, it just doesn't matter that the pursuer is a minor. He is somebody who's trying to murder, whether he's of age or not, and therefore you can kill the pursuer. Pursuer in Hebrew, rodef. You can kill the rodef or the roidef. So if a minor was pursuing another person, that party may be saved. Now the Gemara explains, Rav Huna maintains that a pursuer, a roidef in general, does not require forewarning. And there is no difference with regard to this matter between an adult and a minor. The essence of the matter is rescuing the pursued party from death. And therefore, the pursuer's liability to receive the death penalty is irrelevant. Doesn't matter, he's a minor. Rav Chizda raised an objection to Rav Huna from a Baraisa. If a woman was giving birth and her life was being endangered by the fetus, so the life of the fetus may be sacrificed in order to save the mother. Very famous principle. often brought out in discussions about abortion and what does Jewish law say about abortion. So here states pretty clearly that if the mother's life is in danger, not her comfort, not her stress level, here we're saying if her life is in danger. What I just mentioned is nuances that is discussed in greater detail elsewhere. Here, we're just talking about something specific. If the mother's life is in danger, she's going to die, right? This fetus, if this fetus is not removed from her womb, the mother's going to die. Then it is permitted to abort the child, the fetus. Why? Because the fetus in that case acquires the status of a roidef, a pursuer who is coming to kill the mother. But once the head of the fetus has emerged during the birthing process, he may not be harmed in order to save the mother. Once the head comes out, this is a human being. This is no longer a fetus. And you can't say, I'm going to kill one human to save another, because no one human's blood is redder than another's. Right? You can't sacrifice one person to save another. So you can't sacrifice even this, human that is 1 minute old in order to save the mother. Once the head comes out, you can't kill the child to save the mother. All right, once his head has emerged during the birthing process, he may not be harmed in order to save the mother, because one life may not be pushed aside to save another life. If one is permitted to save the pursued party by killing the minor who is pursuing him, why is this so? The fetus is a pursuer who is endangering his mother's life. So the Gemara answers, this is not difficult, as it is different there. With regard to the woman giving birth, since she is being pursued by heaven, right? Since the fetus is not acting of his own volition and endangering his mother of his own will, his life may not be taken in order to save his mother. Let's reread that. Now we got to this case of the birthing process from that you can kill a minor who's trying to kill an adult. Doesn't matter that he's a minor, he's endangering somebody else's life, therefore he's a pursuer and you can kill him. So if one is permitted to save the pursued party by killing the minor who is pursuing him, why is this so? Right? Why is this so? Because, he is endangering. The minor is acting as a would-be murderer of his own volition. The fetus is a pursuer who is endangering the mother's life. Right? So that's why, while the fetus is still in the womb, if the mother's going to die by we keep that fetus in the womb, we can remove the fetus and kill it to save the mother's life until it's naturally born, right? So the Gemara answers, this is not difficult. So what's this contradiction? This is not difficult, as it is different there. With regard to the woman giving birth, since she is being pursued by heaven, since the fetus is not acting of his own volition and endangering his mother of his own will, his life may not be taken in order to save his mother. So that sounds like you can't abort the fetus to save the mother. Contradicts what we just learned. So the Gemara suggests, let us say that a Baraisa supports the ruling of Rav Huna, who said that a pursuer does not require a forewarning. If a pursuer was pursuing another person in order to kill him, a third party says to the pursuer, see that he... So since we're leaving that behind, we're no longer talking about fetuses. Let me just read what it was. So if a woman was giving birth and her life was being endangered by the fetus may be aborted. But if the head of the fetus has already emerged from her body, it should not be killed, because one life may not be sacrificed for another, despite that later contradiction. Okay, now, a little bit different. The Gemara suggests, let us say that the Baraisa supports the ruling of Rav Huna, who said that a pursuer does not require a forewarning. You don't have to warn the pursuer, stop or I'm going to kill you, to save the pursuee's life. You don't have to warn him. If a pursuer was pursuing another person in order to kill him, a third party says to the pursuer, see that he whom you are pursuing, that you are trying to kill, is a Jew and a loyal member of the covenant. And the Torah stated, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. And the Torah stated, save the blood of this person who is being pursued with the blood of that person who is pursuing him. Right? Somebody's trying to kill somebody else, and you have to give him this whole warning and legal explanation why he's not, you're a pursuer, and therefore you're not allowed to kill him, and I'm going to be allowed to kill you. Do you have to warn him all of that before you kill him? The fact that there is no indication here that the pursuer must say that he heard the forewarning suggests that forewarning is not required, as stated by Rav Huna. But the Gemara rejects this suggestion. Perhaps this baraisa was taught in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yehuda. As it is taught in a baraisa that Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says, a chaver, right, one of the community of the sages, who is thoroughly knowledgeable in law, in halacha, in Jewish law, Torah law, he does not need to be issued a forewarning by witnesses in order to become liable to be punished, because forewarning is given only to distinguish between unintentional sin and intentional sin. And a chaver is certainly aware of the law. The same may be said about a pursuer. Since his malice is clear, he does not require a forewarning. His sin is obviously intentional. Those who disagree with Rabbi Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, and say that even a chaver needs to be issued a forewarning, would say that a pursuer must also be forewarned before you kill the pursuer in order to save the life of the pursuee. So the Gemara suggests, come in here a proof that a pursuer must be forewarned, and therefore one may not save a pursued party by killing a minor who is pursuing him, from the following baraisa. If a pursuer was pursuing another person in order to kill him, and a third party said to him, see that he whom you are pursuing to kill is a Jew and a loyal member of the covenant, and the Torah stated, whoever sheds the blood of a man, by a man shall his blood be shed. So in this case, if the pursuer said, I know this to be so, he is exempt from being killed. But if he said, I am doing it on this condition, meaning I know that that is the case, and I'm going to kill him anyway, then you're allowed to kill the pursuer, but otherwise not. And the Gemara rejects this. The forewarning is not necessary, except in a case where the pursuer and the person issuing the warning are standing on two opposite sides of a river, so that the one issuing the warning is unable to save the life of the pursuee. Only then is a warning necessary. And why is a warning necessary? Because what you're saying is you're going to go and be executed by the sages. That's what I'm warning you about. I don't have to warn a pursuer who's trying to murder someone before I kill the would-be murderer. I don't have to warn him. But if I'm unable to kill the would-be murderer because I'm at a distance, then there is a utility in my warning him. The forewarning is not necessary except in a case... I'm almost done, by the way. Questions or comments, get them in now. The forewarning is not necessary except in a case where the pursuer and the person issuing the warning are standing on two opposite sides of a river, so that the latter cannot save the party being pursued by killing the pursuer. So what is there for him to do? Unable to save the pursued party, he wants at least to bring the pursuer, the would-be murderer, to court, so that he will be convicted and have the death penalty administered to him after he commits murder. But in order to administer punishment, the court requires that the offender receive proper forewarning. It is for this reason that the Baraisa speaks of forewarning. But a pursuer may be killed by a bystander even without having been forewarned. And if you wish, say instead that Rav Huna could have said to you, I stated my opinion that it is permitted to kill a minor pursuer, a pursuer who is a minor, in accordance with the Tana who spoke of the issue of a burglar who breaks into a house. As the Tana says that his breaking in is his forewarning. That is, a burglar who breaks into a house needs no further forewarning. And here too, anyone who's pursuing another in order to murder him does not require forewarning, since his pursuit is his forewarning. And that concludes our discussion of Mishnah number 8 here in chapter 8, Tractate Sanhedrin. And with God's help, we'll pick it up tomorrow on page 73a with Mishnah number 9. Take a few questions. The hour is late, so we'll move fast. Bill, I grew up in Arkansas, which has one of the strongest castle doctrines in the country. More or less, not only can you kill someone who broke into your house by definition, under certain circumstances, it can be extended to outdoor property. Once you're outside, however, the standard is much closer to California's. You have to be able to argue that a reasonably prudent person would agree that your life is in danger. However, it's important to clarify in all these situations that the castle doctrine is a defense. You have to argue it in court. At least in Arkansas, Missouri, and California, the only states I know well enough to speak on firmly. Exactly. It's a defense in court. Why are you going to offer this defense? Because they might indict you anyway, right? So, you can't be a Yahoo. You could end up in a terrible, terrible situation. Another aspect of this is, if the guy was going to get in and get out, right, but you put yourself in his path and then he tried to kill you, is it going to really be a valid self-defense argument? Maybe at the moment that he draws his gun on you. But the fact that he is, running towards you holding your TV, and he would have gone right out the door if you didn't put yourself in your doorway to stop him, and then you shot him, the castle doctrine argument could be very difficult to hold up. If it can be proved that the father breaking into his son's house did indeed intend to kill his son and or his son's family, would the son in that case be allowed to kill his father? Yes, but it would have to be as clear as the son, right? So the presumption would be, no, the father would never kill him, therefore the son can't kill him. But if the father acted in such a way that it was obvious that he was ready to kill the son and or his family, then of course the son can defend himself and kill the father in that tragic situation. And finally, Bill, so what's the line between intent to kill from the father's intention and reckless disregard? I'm thinking, and this is going to be a bit sensitive, of a parent who had been physically abusive. The son might know that the father doesn't intend to kill, but is willing to beat him nearly to death, and the line between nearly to death and to death is perilously thin. Does the son have the right then to fight back with equally deadly force? And the answer is, that's a terrible situation, right? Basically, what we would do, I would think, is we'd take that history into account, and there'd have to be witnesses to establish it. So then we would argue that it was clear as day to the son that this father, who with a violent history, could easily have been coming to kill him in this instance. Maybe he's drunk, maybe he's in a violent rage, and so he didn't succeed in killing the son in the previous instances, but he put him in the hospital. Of course there's a danger to his life, and the son is going to be justified in killing the father. But on the other hand, right, just now as we're talking about American law, there have been many cases, right, where you have an abusive parent and then the child just can't take it anymore and shoots the parent. But then ends up in prison because at the moment of the shooting, the father wasn't creating the danger, right? Wasn't trying to strike him at that moment. It was, a lifetime of this abuse. And our sympathy goes out to that child. But under the law, he wasn't in immediate danger so that this self-defense could be used. Just a tragic situation all around. Very, very difficult and tragic. That's what I've got for us today. And with God's help, we'll be together again tomorrow, Tuesday, regular Tuesday time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good night.